The storm had just passed when Ethan Hale spotted the smoke. It rose like a dark thread into the quiet orange sky of the desert planet Virella. He was returning from a supply run, his small cargo hauler gliding low across the canyon. To most people, that smoke would mean trouble. To Ethan, it meant someone needed help. He changed course immediately, ignoring the navigation system's protest and letting his instincts take over. As he neared the source, he saw twisted metal scattered across the sand, half buried by wind-blown dust. A ship had crashed, small, silver, and shaped unlike any design he recognized. The hull shimmered faintly even in ruin, as if resisting the planet's harsh atmosphere. Ethan landed his hauler a safe distance away, grabbed his repair kit, and ran toward the wreck. The air around the ship hummed with static. He could tell its power core had gone unstable, the kind of failure that could end in a fatal blast if ignored. Kneeling by a ruptured panel, he heard a faint sound from inside, a voice weak but unmistakably alive. "Hey," Ethan called. "I'm here to help."
"Stay still!"
No response came, only another low groan. He pried open the cracked door with a crowbar, metal shrieking in protest, and stepped into the smoke-filled cabin. Through the haze, he saw her, a woman lying against the control seat tangled in shattered cables. Her skin glowed faintly silver blue under the flickering lights. She wasn't human. For a second, Ethan froze. He'd heard stories of aliens traveling near this sector, but never seen one in person. She looked delicate, but her presence felt powerful, like she didn't belong in this broken world. He pushed past his hesitation and knelt beside her. Her breathing was shallow, and one of her arms was caught under a collapsed beam. "Don't move," he said gently. "You'll make it worse." Her eyes opened slightly, bright, violet, and filled with confusion. She looked at him as if trying to understand what he was. "You human?" she whispered. "Yeah," he replied. "Name's Ethan. You're lucky I found you." She tried to speak again, but the effort was too much. He pulled a small plasma cutter from his belt and sliced through the beam trapping her arm. She gasped when the weight lifted. Ethan then checked her vitals with a handheld scanner. It gave strange readings, but she was alive. He carefully lifted her into his arms and carried her out of the ship. The cool desert wind hit her skin and she stirred. "My ship," she murmured. "We'll worry about that later," Ethan said. "You need medical care first." He laid her gently inside his hauler, covered her with a thermal blanket, and set the autopilot to return to his workshop, a converted hangar about 20 kilometers away. As the engines lifted them off, Ethan looked at her again. Even injured, she had an otherworldly grace. He wondered who she was and why she was here, but for now, survival came first. Back at the hangar, he placed her on a repair table and attached a few med patches. They weren't made for aliens, but they would stabilize her until she regained strength. She drifted in and out of consciousness, whispering words in a language his translator couldn't fully decode. Ethan stayed beside her, making sure her vitals didn't crash. Hours later, she finally woke fully. Her eyes opened wide, scanning the unfamiliar surroundings. She tried to sit up, and he steadied her shoulder. "Easy," he said. "You took a nasty crash. You're safe here." She blinked at him, confused but calm. "You saved me," she said softly. Her accent was melodic, her tone formal. "No human should have been here." "Why did you come?" Ethan shrugged. "You needed help. That's all I needed to know." Something in her expression softened, but she stayed quiet. After a long silence, she said, "My name is Saris. I am from the Alindra Dominion." The name meant nothing to him, but it sounded important. "Nice to meet you, Saris," he said with a small smile. "I'm Ethan Hale, mechanic, scavenger, part-time idiot who runs toward danger." That made her lips curve faintly, the closest thing to a smile she could manage. "You risked much for me," she said quietly. "You do not even know who I am." "Doesn't matter," he replied. "You're alive. That's good enough for me." For a brief moment their eyes met, and something unspoken passed between them. Gratitude, perhaps, or curiosity. Saris looked away quickly, hiding the faint shimmer of emotion in her eyes. Over the next few hours, Ethan inspected her damaged ship. The outer hull had multiple fractures, the navigation system was fried, and the power core was nearly destroyed. Repairing it would take days, maybe weeks. Still, he started anyway. Fixing things was what he did best. Saris watched him from her resting spot, quietly observing his every move. There was something strange about how patient he was, how carefully he handled her ship as if it were something sacred. No human she'd ever heard of acted like that. Her people spoke of humans as reckless explorers, always chasing profit or conflict, yet this one worked tirelessly, asking nothing in return. By nightfall, Ethan had managed to stabilize the power core. He wiped the sweat from his forehead and sat down near her. "It's a mess," he said, "but not hopeless. I can fix it." "You can?" she asked softly. "Yeah. It'll take time, though. Some of your tech is way beyond me, but I'll figure it out." Saris looked at him with quiet wonder. She could sense no deceit in his words. He truly meant to repair her ship, not salvage it for parts or sell her out to pirates. In her world, that kind of sincerity was rare. As he prepared some rations, she studied him again. His hands were calloused, his clothes dusty, but his eyes carried calm determination. For reasons she couldn't explain, her chest felt warm when he smiled at her. "You should rest," he told her. "You'll need your strength." "I do not usually rest when others work for me," she said. Ethan chuckled. "Then consider this a special case. Doctor's orders." For the first time, she laughed, a soft melodic sound that made the hangar feel less empty. He looked at her, surprised. "That's better," he said. "You almost sound human." She tilted her head. "Perhaps that is not such a terrible thing." The next morning, she insisted on helping. Though still weak, she guided him through unfamiliar repair methods. She explained how her ship's energy conduits worked and showed him symbols on the control console. Together, they formed an unlikely team, human instinct and alien precision. As days passed, Saris regained her strength, and the ship slowly came back to life. Ethan found himself enjoying her company more than he expected. She was intelligent, calm, and carried herself with quiet dignity. Sometimes he caught her watching him thoughtfully, as if studying something deeper than his actions. One evening, as they worked under the dim glow of the hangar lights, she asked, "Ethan, do you believe in fate?" He paused. "Not really. I believe in choices. You crash, you fix it. You fall, you stand. That's all there is." She seemed to think about that for a long moment. "Among my people," she said softly, "there is an ancient tradition. When a royal's life is saved, she must choose her eternal mate, the one she trusts with her soul. It is an unbreakable vow." Ethan raised an eyebrow. "That's intense." "It is," she agreed, "but it is sacred, and once chosen, it binds two lives forever." He laughed lightly, not realizing the weight of her words. "Well, let's hope whoever saved your life is ready for that." Saris looked at him quietly, her expression unreadable. "Perhaps he already is," she whispered under her breath, but he didn't hear. The wind outside howled through the canyons. Inside the hangar, their two worlds, human and alien, continued to draw closer piece by piece as they repaired the ship together. Ethan thought he was just fixing an engine. He didn't know that with every act of kindness, every word spoken, he was being chosen for something far greater, a bond that would change both their destinies forever. Ethan woke early the next morning, the desert still cool before the twin suns rose. He found Saris already awake, standing near the ship's open hull. She had wrapped herself in a silver fabric from her survival kit, and for a moment she looked like a living part of the dawn. "Couldn't sleep?" he asked. "I watched your world," she replied softly. "It is harsh, yet alive. The sand moves like water. The air burns but still breathes life." He smiled. "That's Varela for you. Unforgiving, but it grows on you." She turned toward him, her violet eyes catching the first light. "Humans endure much," she said. "Perhaps that is why fate led me to crash here." He laughed. "If fate wanted to test your patience, this planet's the right place." They worked through the morning. Ethan repaired a damaged coolant pipe while Saris recalibrated the ship's control interface. Her movements were elegant, her understanding of technology far beyond his own. Yet she never spoke down to him. Instead, she taught patiently, sometimes smiling at his clumsy attempts to imitate alien engineering. At one point, the power conduit shorted out, sending a small spark across the floor. Ethan jumped back, nearly losing his balance. Saris caught his arm quickly. Her hand felt warm despite her strange skin tone. "Careful," she said, her voice a mix of concern and amusement. "Guess I'm not as smooth as I thought," he joked. She tilted her head, studying him. "Humans laugh even in danger, my people. We analyze instead." "That's because you think too much," Ethan said lightly. "Sometimes a good laugh fixes more than a tool." Saris smiled faintly. "Perhaps you are right. They worked side by side until evening. When they paused for food, Saris asked to see what humans ate. Ethan opened a ration pack, explaining how most meals on Varela were processed from fungus and root extract. She tasted a small piece and frowned in confusion. "It is not unpleasant," she said carefully, "but it has no soul." Ethan laughed. "You sound like my grandmother." "Your grandmother must be wise," she replied, her tone sincere. The sun dipped below the ridge, casting long shadows through the hangar. The silence that followed felt peaceful. Saris leaned against a piece of the hull, watching the fading light. "You live alone?" she asked. "Yeah," Ethan said. "He used to work with a crew, but when the mining operation shut down, everyone left. I stayed. Someone has to keep the old machines running." "Do you not grow lonely?" "Sometimes," he admitted. "But out here, loneliness becomes a friend. You learn to live with it." She looked at him for a long moment, then said quietly, "On Alindra, no one is ever alone. We are always surrounded by the voices of our people. Yet I think that can be louder than silence." Ethan didn't fully understand, but he saw a shadow of sadness in her eyes. He changed the topic gently. "So your ship, was it just you on board?" Saris hesitated before answering. "No, I had a small escort. Pirates attacked us. I diverted power to the main engines to escape. The others didn't make it." Ethan felt a pang of sympathy. "I'm sorry," she looked down. "It was my decision. I live because they did not. Among my people, that carries a heavy mark." He wanted to say something comforting, but no words felt right, so instead he placed a quiet hand on her shoulder. She looked up, surprised by the gesture, yet didn't pull away. The warmth of his touch seemed to reach deeper than she expected. That night, the wind outside grew fierce. The hangar lights flickered under the storm's pressure. Saris couldn't sleep. She stood near the window, watching the swirling sand. Ethan noticed and walked over. "You all right?" he asked. "This storm reminds me of the nebula winds back home," she said softly. "They come when the sky mourns." Ethan joined her by the window. "On Earth, we used to say storms wash the world clean." "Perhaps," she murmured. "But sometimes they only reveal what was hidden." He didn't ask what she meant, and she didn't explain. For a few minutes, they just watched the desert together, the silence speaking louder than any words. The next morning, the storm had passed, but half the solar panels were buried in sand. Ethan grabbed his tools, ready to dig them out. Saris followed, insisting she help. Despite her injuries, she worked beside him without complaint. The suns were merciless, but she didn't stop. "You don't have to do this," he said. "You're still recovering." She looked at him with quiet strength. "My people say effort binds honor. I will not watch you labor for me while I do nothing." Ethan smiled at that. "You really are something else." As the day stretched on, they talked more. Ethan told her about Earth, about blue oceans, green forests, and the sound of rain. She listened intently, her eyes full of wonder. "It sounds like paradise," she whispered. "I have never seen oceans. Our world shines with crystal deserts and violet skies, but water is rare. You speak of it as if it lives." "It does," Ethan said. "You'd like it. Maybe one day I'll show you." She didn't answer, but her gaze lingered on him, thoughtful and deep. That evening, as they tested the ship's restored systems, Saris suddenly grew tense. "Wait," she said. "There is a signal." Ethan looked at the console. "Distress beacon?" "No," she replied. "It is a trace signal. Someone is searching for this ship. The code, it belongs to the Dominion fleet." "Your people?" "Yes," she said quietly. "They will come soon." He smiled, trying to sound pleased. "That's good, right? Means you'll be safe." But her expression didn't match his words. She turned away, her hands trembling slightly. "Perhaps. Or perhaps not." Ethan frowned. "What do you mean?" She hesitated. "The Dominion does not see me as one to be protected. I fled from my own court before the attack. I refused a political bond they demanded of me. My crash? It was not entirely chance." Ethan stared at her. "You mean you were running away?" "Yes," she whispered. From a life without choice, he tried to process that. "And now they're coming to take you back?" "Yes." He rubbed his forehead, thinking fast. "Then we've got to get your ship ready to fly before they find you." She looked at him, surprised by his determination. "You would risk that?" "Of course," he said simply. "You deserve the freedom to choose your own life." Something in her expression changed then, a softness mixed with awe. No one had ever spoken to her like that before. To most, she was royalty. To him, she was just a person worth saving. They worked all night repairing the last systems. Sparks flew, engines hummed, and sweat dripped down Ethan's face. Sarah stayed by his side, guiding and assisting, her energy mixing with his. As dawn broke, the ship came alive. Lights flickered across its frame. Engines glowing softly. "It's ready," Ethan said, exhausted but proud. Sarah placed her hand on the ship's hull, whispering something in her language. Then she turned to him. "You have done more for me than anyone ever has." "I cannot repay this," Ethan shook his head. "You don't owe me anything." Her eyes glimmered faintly. "You do not understand, Ethan. In my culture, what you have done, it binds us. My life, my freedom, everything I have is now tied to your act." He smiled awkwardly. "Hey, I just fixed your ship, that's all." "No," she said softly. "You repaired more than a ship. You restored my choice." Before he could respond, a blip appeared on the radar. A fleet was approaching fast, large, heavily armed, and unmistakably alien. Ethan tensed. "They found us," Sarah nodded grimly. "Yes, the Dominion has come." Ethan looked at her. "Then we'll face them together." Her breath caught slightly. "You would stand against a fleet for me?" "Wouldn't be the first time I picked the wrong fight," he said with a grin. She smiled, though her eyes shimmered with emotion. "Perhaps this time it will be the right one." The engines roared to life and the hangar doors opened wide. As sand whipped around them, Ethan climbed aboard the small ship beside her. He had no plan, no weapons, just courage. Sarah looked at him one last time. "Ethan Hale," she said quietly. "Among my people we speak vows only once in a lifetime. When I say yours, it will never fade." He didn't understand what she meant, but something in her tone made his heart race. Outside, the sky filled with approaching lights. The Dominion ships descended, surrounding them like predators. Sarah took the pilot seat, her fingers glowing as they touched the controls. "Hold on," she said. The ship lifted into the storm, its engines blazing against the rising suns. Ethan's world shook around him, but he didn't let go. Somewhere deep inside he knew. This was no longer about repair or rescue or fate. It was about a bond neither of them had expected, one that no empire could undo. The small ship cut through the rising winds of Varella's canyon with surprising agility. Ethan gripped the seat, his eyes scanning the approaching fleet. They were sleek, massive, and alien in design, bristling with weapons and shimmering shields that reflected the twin suns. He had no idea how they would respond to a single ship flying out of their territory. Sarah's hands moved across the control panel with precision and confidence that belied her exhaustion. The engines hummed under her touch, responding to the slightest command. "Ethan, stay calm," she said, her voice steady. "The Dominion will test us first. They will attempt communication before attack." Ethan nodded, though his stomach churned. "Communication usually means trouble," he muttered. Sarah glanced at him and let a small, almost amused smile cross her lips. "Perhaps for humans. For me, it is routine." The lead ship's comm lights blinked. A deep, resonant voice echoed through the cabin. "Alien Princess Saris, you are to return to the Dominion immediately." "Resistance is forbidden. You are under arrest." Sarah straightened, her face cold and regal. "I am not under anyone's command," she replied. "I am exercising my right to free will," the voice rumbled. "Your rebellion endangers the Dominion. Surrender or face destruction." Ethan looked at her wide-eyed. "Free will? That's brave," she met his gaze. "This is more than bravery, Ethan. It is my life. And now, perhaps yours too." He gulped. "Mine?" "Yes," she said quietly. "You saved me. By Dominion law, you are bound to me as one who has my life. That makes you a protector. And potentially more." Ethan blinked. "Potentially more?" She didn't elaborate, but there was a depth in her eyes he couldn't ignore. The small ship shifted as they dodged the first scanning beams from the Dominion fleet. Ethan leaned into the seat, gripping the edges. The shields on her ship flickered under the power strain, but she kept it steady. "How do you know what to do?" he asked, struggling to keep his voice calm. "I learned quickly," she said simply. "In my world, survival often requires immediate mastery. And now it is your survival too." They weaved through the canyon using the natural rock formations as cover. Ethan marveled at her skill. He had flown cargo haulers through tight spaces before, but never with the kind of precision she displayed. Each maneuver was calculated, elegant, and deadly to any who would follow. "Do you always fight like this?" he asked. "Not always," she said, eyes focused ahead. "But necessity dictates action. And sometimes, it reveals truth." He didn't know what she meant, but he felt it. Something about the danger, the close proximity, the trust she placed in him. It all felt like a turning point. The Dominion fleet opened fire next, sending pulses of energy toward them. Cirrus's ship shuddered under the strikes, but she countered with defensive maneuvers, banking hard and diving low. Sparks flew as the ship grazed the canyon walls. Ethan held on tight, heart pounding, yet he felt a strange exhilaration. He was part of something bigger than himself, something heroic, something beyond the ordinary life he had led. Cirrus glanced at him. "Are you hurt?" "No," he said, voice shaky but firm. "I can take a few bumps." "You must trust me," she said softly. "If you hesitate, we fail," he nodded. "I trust you." Her eyes softened, and for a moment the fierce commander gave way to someone more vulnerable, more human, in a sense he could understand. "Then hold on," she said, turning fully to her controls. They dodged another series of attacks, the fleet pressing in. Ethan noticed her hands moving faster than any human could, adjusting power flows, redirecting energy to shields, and calculating escape trajectories. He realized she was not just skilled, she was extraordinary. Amid the chaos, she spoke quietly. "Ethan, there is a choice I must make." "What choice?" he asked, fear and curiosity intertwining. "In my culture, a royal who survives such trials must select an eternal mate," she said. "It is not only honor, it is sacred. I did not plan for this. But by law and tradition, the act of saving my life places a bond upon you." Ethan felt the weight of her words. "A bond? What does that mean?" "It means," she said carefully, "that once chosen, the connection is lifelong, unbreakable. You would not be just a protector. You would be more than a human companion. You would share in my fate." Ethan blinked. "You're serious?" She nodded. "I am not frivolous in these matters. You have shown courage, kindness, and loyalty. These are qualities I have not seen in many." His heart raced. He had repaired her ship, helped her survive, never expecting anything beyond gratitude. No, she was speaking of a bond that could last a lifetime. The idea seemed impossible, overwhelming, and yet somehow— "Right, Cirrus," he said slowly. "I don't know what to say. I didn't do it for reward." "I know," she said softly, "and that is why I must consider you." Ethan looked forward, the canyon walls racing past and then back at her. The storm had cleared and the twin suns reflected off her skin, casting a glow that made her seem almost ethereal. I'll follow your lead," he said honestly. "Whatever choice you make, I'll honor it." Her eyes met his, deep and unwavering. "You are unlike any human I have known," she whispered. The Dominion fleet split, some ships taking higher orbits while others attempted to cut them off. Cirrus executed a daring move, diving through the narrow canyon entrance. Ethan held his breath as the ship scraped the walls. Outside, the enemy weapons fired but missed narrowly. The maneuver bought them time, though it was risky. "You are reckless," Ethan shouted, half in fear, half in admiration. "I am calculated," she replied with a faint smile. "There is a difference." Hours passed as they navigated through treacherous terrain, outsmarting the Dominion fleet using the planet's geography. Ethan began to see a different side of Cirrus, one that balanced authority and humility, strength and gentleness. He admired her not only for her skill but for her resolve, her capacity to remain calm and focused under extreme pressure. Eventually, the fleet fell behind. Cirrus's ship slowed, hovering near a plateau overlooking the desert. Ethan exhaled deeply, tension leaving his body for the first time in hours. "We made it. For now," he said. She nodded, scanning the horizon. "Yes, but they will not give up easily. The Dominion does not forget." He turned to her. "Sarah's about what you said earlier. The bond, the choice. I need to know. I've never met anyone like you, and if this is something real, I want to honor it, whatever it takes." Her violet eyes softened, and she reached out a hand to touch his. "Ethan, the bond is not made lightly. It is forged through trust, respect, and the understanding of one another's soul. You have already shown these qualities, yet you must know, it is not an obligation. You are free to accept or step away." He squeezed her hand gently. "I won't step away. I've never met someone worth this much." Her lips curved into a faint smile, and for a moment the world seemed still around them. The desert, the canyon, the suns, everything faded into the background of that quiet connection. Then perhaps— "You are ready," she whispered. "You do not fully understand what this bond entails, but your heart knows. You have acted with courage, compassion, and honor, qualities that surpass fear and doubt. By my people's law, you are considered chosen. Ethan's heart raced. Chosen? He repeated. For real? Yes, she said. By your actions, your willingness to risk yourself for me, and the purity of your intent, you are more than a savior. You are a part of my life now if you accept it. He looked at her, the enormity of the moment sinking in. Every instinct told him to be humble, to question his worth. But then he thought of the hours, the danger, the trust they had built, and he knew. I accept, he said, voice steady and sincere. Her eyes glimmered, a mixture of relief and warmth. Then it is done, she said softly. For the first time, Ethan realized the depth of the connection forming between them. It was more than gratitude or admiration. It was a bond of mutual respect, shared trials, and perhaps something stronger, something neither of them had expected when the storm brought them together. The stars began to rise as the twin suns set, painting the desert in soft hues. Saris activated the ship's engines fully, lifting them into orbit. The Dominion fleet was still out there, but their immediate danger had passed. Ethan and Saris sat side by side, looking out at the infinite expanse of space, the silence now peaceful rather than tense. I never expected this, Ethan said quietly. Nor I, Saris admitted. Yet it feels right. You have earned more than survival. You have earned trust, companionship, and perhaps something beyond. He looked at her, feeling a warmth he could not explain. Then we face whatever comes next together. Saris nodded. Yes, together. In the vastness of space, between two worlds and across the boundaries of species, a human and an alien princess forged a bond that would endure. It was a bond born of courage, compassion, and choice. A bond neither empire nor circumstance could undo. As they flew toward the stars, Ethan realized that the life he had known before, the lonely days, the simple repairs, the quiet desert nights, had led him to this moment. A moment where heroism and humanity, trust and destiny converged, and it was only the beginning.